Welcome to Dental Wife Life. Whether you're married to a dental student or a dentist, navigating the unique challenges of a dental family can feel lonely. You're not alone, and this podcast is a space created just for you. Here we share real stories, honest conversations, and practical tools to help you navigate everything from dental school stress to practice ownership, family transitions, and finding your own identity along the way. We are here to validate your sacrifices, challenge outdated roles, strengthen marriages and practices, and build a community of women who support each other. We'll get out of survival mode and learn to thrive together.
Hello.
Hi.
I have my twin sister here actually, joining me for this episode. So, Aubrey, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and tell people why I wanted you on this podcast today?
Okay, my name is Aubrey, and I live in Wyoming with my husband, who is a dentist. I'm involved in his practice, but I do not have an official job description. And Whitney and I often talk about what it's like to be the dentist's wife.
So, isn't that kind of funny that we both married dentists? I guess we did not both marry dentists. We both married men who went on to become dentists. I just put them through dental school. Her husband was a year ahead of my husband in school. So we moved out to Omaha, Nebraska when Aaron and Aubrey had 3 years left there. It was like the best 3 years of my life. We were neighbors and lived in this like townhome complex, basically. We lived like a couple buildings away from each other. We raised our babies together. It was so fun. And I would go back in a heartbeat.
Yes. We'll never be neighbors again.
Yes, don't say that. Maybe someday it might happen. So I was on Facebook, and I am part of a few like office manager Facebook pages. And a dentist got on and he posted, which I had pulled up and then my phone closed down. Okay, so here's the Facebook post. I'm considering hiring my wife as front desk / business admin. What are the challenges people encounter with a husband and wife ran office? If the wife runs the front desk and admin, is this a red flag for the staff? I feel like it's worth adding here that my wife is not being hired because she is my wife. She has extensive legal and administrative experience, as well as sales and customer service experience. I joke that if she was not my wife, I would not be able to afford someone so credentialed and experienced. So I read that and then I was like, yes, instantly to the comments, which now this is old enough. I can't see how many comments is on the post, but hundreds of comments. And I'm going to read some of these, which do you guys do that? You see a video, read a post or anything, and you're like, I don't care about this post. I'm going to read the comments. One comment said, not worth it, creates uncomfortable environment for everyone at the office except for you and your spouse. Somebody else that I personally won't work in that environment ever again. Somebody said, red flag, because you'll be discussing business all the time unless you have a rule. Also, conflict of interest. Usually I have seen the relative works behind the scene and not at the front or the admin. I asked this at my interviews. Does spouse / partner or any relatives work here? I absolutely will not work there. Red flag, I won't work for a husband and wife ever again. Complete red flag. Nobody who's experienced in the dental field would ever work for you. Don't do it. Keep those things separate or it will really hurt your chances of keeping good staff. I could literally read like 300 more just like that. And for me, that's the whole reason why I even wanted to start this podcast and I think changing the narrative. And I think the biggest, what I wanted to discuss today is why is this such a trigger for people? And where did this reputation come from? And is it an earned reputation or is it misunderstood? So I think the first thing, how did wives get a bad reputation in dentistry? What do you think?
I think one of the things I saw in the comments is when a doctor hires his wife to fulfill a position that she is not trained or educated in.
Yeah.
That was a lot of the negative comments were like it creates resentment in the staff when the staff has to then train their office manager. Like an office manager needs to be able to come in and know how things are operated and be able to produce solutions, not be completely clueless about what's going on. And so where there are those experiences, and unfortunately so many experiences where a wife who's not educated in the field is coming in and trying to do a job she's not qualified for, then it's going to create these negative experiences where she doesn't know what's going on and she's making changes that don't make sense or that hurt the business. And then on top of that, maybe not taking accountability of the consequences of her changes that she's made.
Like when I was thinking about it, I feel unrealistic expectations, right? From both sides, from the doctor and maybe the wife. Maybe the doctor's thinking she's just going to help out. She's going to help fix the culture. She's great with people. She can help take care of HR. I hate dealing with the drama. And maybe the wife's thinking, I'll just help out a little bit. The team's going to respect me because I'm married to the doctor. And this is just going to make our life easier. And in reality, it's a leadership position, right? And if the wife is just thrown into that position, then there's not any clear authority or even clarity around the role in general. And so then there's unmet expectations even for the team. So the team's thinking they're getting a leader that maybe is not qualified and doesn't have the training. And so I can definitely see how some of the team would get pretty fiery about that. I could definitely see how that would be a rough situation. I think something else too is burnout. And maybe going into the office thinking as the wife, you're coming into the office. For me specifically, most of the stuff that I take on, like we have managers in our, I mean, it's all weird. There's actually like 3 of us, 4, including my lead assistant, that are in like admin responsibilities, not including my husband. We don't even count him. He's just doing the dentistry. So the roles that I take on are things that normally probably like the owner dentist would be doing. And we have other admin teams in the office. There's 4 of us in leadership positions. And my role specifically are those ones that I took off my husband's plate with the idea that then, because he's so busy as a dentist, that he would have to put in a ton of extra hours like doing admin stuff, and I'd rather him be home. So it helps us have a better work-life balance. Does it add a lot of stress to my life? Absolutely. And sometimes I wish I could just be like blissfully ignorant to all the stuff going on in the dental office. But in the long run, like it really does help with that work-life balance. And when a wife is stepping in, maybe it's because the practice is struggling, maybe the doctor's overwhelmed, maybe finances are tight, and the wife can fulfill a role that maybe the doctor couldn't afford an office manager, or they're trying to help with this work-life balance in their marriage. In my case, I just really wanted to work in the office as well. Like it was both of our dreams. If Brittany was on this podcast, it was not her dream. And she talks about that in earlier podcast that she was thrown into it just because of the structure from the previous office. For you, there was an office manager. So what are some of the roles that you do take on?
I've ultimately taken on payroll and a little bit of HR stuff, though it's behind the scenes. And
kind of like coaching style, like more
yes,
kind of coaching the office manager.
Yes, I don't think it would be helpful for anyone if I just walked in one day and like some sort of like disciplinary meeting with someone. They'd be like, "Who this?" but yeah, more of coaching and HR stuff.
Some of the conversations we've had about it too, like just that sounding board for the office manager that she can bounce issues. Like you are fully invested in her success and in the success of the practice. And I feel like that's why it's so powerful to have the wife involved, is because there's not going to be anybody as dedicated to the practice besides the owner himself. And so you make the perfect sounding board. But like you said, if you came in and you were like, I'm going to have to write you up because I heard about this.
Yeah, they'd be like, what? Yeah, that would be very random. So basically, the reason why it's worked is because we've created a lane for ourselves, usually from taking off of our husband's plates. And we're working within this lane of responsibilities, and we stay in that lane. And I feel like I can recognize that because I'm not trained in the dental field. So I'm not going to come in and tell the assistants how to do it better. I have no idea. You are trained in the dental field, so I feel like you're even more qualified and do a lot more in the practice because of that. But you can't create solutions when you're completely ignorant, and it creates conflict in the office and among other people when you just come in and act like just because you are married to the dentist, you get to make decisions when you are not that's not actually a qualification for making those changes.
And again, I feel like that goes back to what we were first talking about, like the expectations, like unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
And then be able to solve these problems, but you don't have any training. So being realistic in what you're capable of. And that doesn't mean like what you're capable of today. There's plenty in the office that I didn't know. Like I really didn't know any chair side. We got into a situation where we needed another dental assistant, and we did need a dental hygienist. So I switched teams and I went to dental assistant, and they had to train me, but not as the doctor's wife. And they were so grateful that there was a body that could hold the suction and help with some of the things. And I got trained in that way. So it's okay for you to get more training and get more experience as you come into the office, but especially when you're like brand new, like just being realistic on what you can contribute, but also know, like I made plenty of mistakes when it came to meddling with issues and drama and office culture and just trying to like fix that in my own way, which would be like a whole nother podcast. But just know I made mistakes and it's been okay. Like the business hasn't gone up in flames. They didn't burn me at the stake. They didn't kick me out. And it worked out. And I think also like my team has given me so much grace, and just knowing that I really am truly there just trying to help, and I'm just doing my best with the situation. And I think it also comes to like, when I was reading those comments when they were like, I would never work for somebody that I was like, I would never hire somebody with that attitude.
Yeah, it wouldn't be conducive to your office culture. So you're like, yeah, we're not a good fit. I hope you find a great job somewhere else.
Yeah, so it sounds like the feelings would be mutual.
Yeah.
So that's fine. You would see me and run, and I would see your attitude and run. So yeah. I think anytime like surrounding yourself with people that are going to encourage you and help you and be willing to train you. Like that comment that are like, we had to train the doctor's wife. And you're like, we all have to start somewhere. You got to train somebody.
I think it's you have that humility, like that you're willing to come in and be like, okay, how do we do this? What works for you? And not just coming in with this, I'm the office owner and I'm just going to throw my weight around. Unfortunately, there are experiences that people have had where the dentist's wife comes in and just throws their weight around. And I can see where it could create this very like toxic culture of where you don't have an HR department and you don't have someone to turn to, and it like pits the dentist against the dentist's wife, and it could go very badly. Anyone can see that. But if you have someone who's an office manager and also the dentist's wife who is like, all right, you need me to assist, like I'll train me how to assist. Like you're flexible and humble about it and like teachable, instead of just coming in and making changes and acting like when you don't.
Yeah. Wives come in, maybe they're not qualified, so then you find yourself like overcompensating. So talking about like ego, maybe they're micromanaging, because again, like if you don't have the training, then that's one way that we overcompensate, right? By micromanaging, trying to fix everything. And then I feel like talking about burnout as well. Early in my husband's career, he was talking with another dentist, and he read an article. He read an article in one of those magazines that talks about how 4 ways that you can show employees you appreciate them, like beyond their paycheck. And so he was like, like, what do you think about these? And the doctor and the doctor's wife, they were like, oh, nope, we only do paychecks. That's what they get. And I remember we were talking about it later, and he's like, oh, like, I don't know what happened, like, that they're so jaded, basically. He's like, I don't want to be like that. And 6 months into ownership, we were talking about it, and he was like, I hardcore judged practice owners who were like jaded and had that attitude. And it was like really humbling, because we're like, actually, like ownership is really hard. And there's a lot of stress. And I can see myself getting those same feelings around like, at least got a paycheck.
Yeah.
Kind of going over and beyond and office culture and all these things. You got a job. What more do you want? And so I think it's so important to protect you, protect your marriage, protect your family life, protect your own sanity, your own nervous system, because it's such an easy trap to get to that point where you're burned out, you're feeling maybe resentful. And I feel like that comes to unrealistic expectations as well. For me, like our family comes first, and I expect my team members to have those same feelings about their family. And so I would never expect them to put their job above their family. But that is something that I have seen with wives, that your job should come first. And so I think having realistic expectations like that, things that I'm going to expect of myself. I'm going to expect to put my family first. So that's when I expect rather than being like, my family comes first, but your family comes last. So I think that's important. And I feel like it's wives might find themselves in this, like the core of this toxic environment. And it's not because they're bad. I feel like wives are like truly giving it their all, but it's just because they're exhausted and the roles are unclear, right? The roles and who reports to who and stuff like that. And like power without structure, right? So you're married to the doctor, but what does that dynamic look like? So there's like undefined authority. There can be like emotional spillover, no accountability or structure, and then no clear lane, like you mentioned, like having that lane. And when this doctor-wife dynamic fails, I don't feel like it's because the wife is incompetent. I feel like it's just because of these things that kind of make it a little bit messy. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And so reading some of these comments, though, it's not impossible, people. There's plenty of people that have good experiences with it, that it was like so refreshing. Somebody said, I worked in my husband's office for almost 10 years. It worked for us because we communicate well, respect each other's decisions, and stay in our own lane. We rarely have conflicts outside of the office, so we get along well at the office. Some people don't recommend it, but we're friends with our team inside and outside of our office. Sure, we don't divulge all of personal stuff, but they know a lot. Who you surround yourself with and how you treat them will determine your success as practice owner, regardless of your wife working at the practice. If she can fit into your office culture and you can trust and respect her ability to make decisions like anyone else, you would hire her, then it's worth a shot. And I love that. I feel like that's so true. Like, by fitting in with the office culture, can you respect her making that decision? For me and my husband, like he absolutely, like he loves not being involved in like HR and conflict stuff and totally backs me up 100% on what I would say. But I could definitely see that being tricky if you're like fighting at the office. We also have a really hard rule that we're not allowed to fight at the office. And if we're fighting at home and we're going to the office, like we were driving one day and we were arguing about something. And I was like, hey, this is going to confuse you because I'm upset. But we're going to walk through those doors and upset is gone. And it's just happy Whitney. And you're going to be like, oh, she's not mad anymore. But I'm mad. I'm super mad. And we will talk about it when we get home, but we're not talking about it here. And he was like, okay. And I was like, and you turned it off too. You don't get to be no acting mad. And so we went in and he was laughing because he was like, this is so freaky. Like, are you mad? I'm not mad. I'm so confused. I just think it's so important to leave that at the door. We had an office meeting and he likes to get off topic when I'm trying to lead these trainings and interject random things. It's so annoying. Like he said something and I was like so annoyed, but I just let him say it. And then we got home and I was like, oh, I'm so mad at you. But I'm not going to make a scene in the office and embarrass both of us. But then we got home and we had to discuss it. I'm like, hey, if I'm leading meetings, this is how I need you to be involved. This is your role in this situation. And it's not peanut gallery. Figuring those things out with trial and error and good communication is such an important aspect of it, and just like healthy conflict resolution.
I feel like that's a conversation that you would have with the dentist if you were the office manager, even if you weren't married to the dentist.
Right.
The office manager has this like vision for morning huddles, and the dentist comes in late or comes in and has his own agenda or something. You would need to have that conversation and be like, hey, this is, you know, how I picture this conversation going each morning. This is how I want the huddle to look or the team meeting to look, and be able to have that conversation together. I think what's important about that is you're having this conversation with the dentist, but it's not outside of your role as office manager. Yeah. It's actually not the wife having the conversation. It's the office manager having the conversation.
Sometimes I've had to have conversations like on behalf of this team with my husband. And I am like, how do people do this when you're not married to them? I'm not like brave enough, I feel like, to have these like hard conversations. So I was part-time in the office, mostly worked from home, like when the twins were first born. And I'm trying to think what exactly happened. I think it was about a year in that I started full-time in the office. And we had these like 3 computers in the hallway, and 2 of them are like lower and then one's high. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, why is this computer so high? We can't see this computer. And I'm 5'7", so I'm pretty tall, but like everybody else is like a foot shorter than me. And so I'm like, why is this so high? And one of the head ghosts was like, that's the computer that Dr. Bishop uses. And I was like, how often? He has an office. Like, how often is he just walking by and glancing at his computer? We're using these computers 100 times a day. But good thing we have a computer up high for him, because heaven forbid he looked at a computer.
Crouched a little.
Like the rest of us, nobody would even use the computer. Like I could see it, but like nobody would even use it because it's so high up. And so I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And so I go and I'm like adjusting. It's just like an adjustable screen. So I'm adjusting it. And then I hear him and he's like, who looked at my screen? And somebody was like, oh, it was Whitney. And he came into like my op. I was like setting it up, and he's, oh, hey, I said something like, we'll talk about it later or something. He's like, oh no, I'm not mad that you moved the screen. And I was like, I'm mad that the screen was high. And he's, oh shoot. And it's just like those type of things. Like nobody said anything to him. Hey doctor, this is totally ridiculous that you have your own personal screen for you to use twice for 20 seconds. And the rest of us can't use it because it's too high. And so having a conversation with him, and I'm like, hey, you can't, that's ridiculous. You can't have your own screen, basically. And I can say those things to him because I'm comfortable saying I'm not worried about my job. But again, privately, we went to lunch and I told him, and he was like, oh shoot, I had no clue. Just wanted his screen. And then also like in the office, like my husband is very entrepreneur, like mindset. And I feel like I have more of this HR mindset where he's going to be really focused on the business and what's best for the business. And my mindset is what's best for the team, what's best for the people. And so they don't come together nicely, but it's great to have both perspectives. And so I feel like what we both bring to conversations, like, yes, we will have to like really debate things out as co-owners. What are we going to do? What's the balance here? What's the compromise? And have those difficult conversations. But I feel like it's so important that we both bring such an important dynamic to it that I feel like our office is better off with both of our personalities and both of our values, like the different things that we value. And so if you're a wife listening to this, because the red flags really do scare me. And sometimes I go to seminars, especially if I go as an office manager just by myself, I don't tell people I'm married to the doctor because it's scary, because people have such strong opinions about it.
Such strong emotions.
Yes, it's such a trigger. And I feel like people are like, oh, she slept her way to the top. Just like that's her dog. They don't see me for what I can bring to the table and what I contribute to the office. It's a fear of mine. And so I know I'm not alone in this, but I'm hoping that we can change the narrative, that there are more positives than negatives. That's what I would love to see in the industry. Because when it comes down to it, like we mentioned before, there's going to be nobody as motivated for the doctor's success as the wife, right? Like we are truly just invested in the practice. We want to see our husbands succeed and help them reach their full potential and reach their dreams. And so if you're worried about becoming that wife, I think define your lane before you enter it. Have these conversations with your husband. Like, what are you going to actually be responsible for? What authority do you have? What decisions are yours? What decisions are still his? What decisions belong to other people? And then who do you report to and who reports to you? So there's none of this like floating roles. Who am I in charge of? Who's in charge of me? We've talked about finding your lane and staying in it. And then I think it's a big deal too to not weaponize the marriage, that Braden wants it this way, and not making each other the bad guy, throwing each other under the bus. And then also like having that respect that we're not going to correct each other publicly. And we're also not going to undermine each other privately, because team members can feel that tension and that can be really stressful. Like you mentioned as well, that you can't just jump in when you're not trained. And so that process might be slow as you're building that credibility over the years, and you're understanding how the office works, and you're understanding these different roles, and you're understanding how all the pieces fit together. And you will just become more and more capable as you get more and more training. So be realistic in that. And then lastly is just having those emotional boundaries. So office stress does not come home, and home stress cannot come to the office. And that can be really difficult, but it's just going to be such a lifesaver for your office culture. And I feel like it works because the wives are competent and we're invested, and the doctor respects their wife, and their roles are clearly defined. This is when it works, right? Clearly defined roles. There's structure, there's accountability. As wives, we need to be emotionally stable and secure and check the ego at home. And we need to be humble and realize that when we don't have the answers. So if you're a dentist and you're considering hiring your wife, ask, is she actually qualified? Does she want this? What does she want from this? Are we trying to solve a marriage problem or a business problem? Are we clear on her authority? Are we willing to get leadership coaching? Realizing that you might need to invest in some coaching and some training for your wife. And I truly believe that being the wife in dentistry is not a red flag. I feel like it's a superpower and a huge asset to the team. I feel like being insecure and reactive, unclear and untrained, those are the red flags, right? And that you're going to find whether you're the wife or not. You can find that in any position. And so whether you're married to the owner or not, these are the red flags, and these are the things that we want to watch out for in order to keep our practices and keep that dynamic healthy.
Yes.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Dental Wife Life. If today's episode encouraged you, challenged you, or made you feel a little less alone, share it with another dental wife who needs it. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media so that we can keep the conversation going. You can find us on Instagram at The Dental Wife Life. Remember, your role matters, your voice matters, and you don't have to navigate this journey alone. We'll see you next time.